this is all we're asking for. We're not asking for the world. We're asking for this to continue.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Louisiana Farm Bureau podcast. I'm your host, Karl Wiggers, and today I've got with me Andy Brown, who is fresh from, it's hard to say fresh from the work. You've been busy since convention, really, haven't you? I mean, is that safe to say?
Yeah, I told a lot of people. I talked on the phone for 4.5 hours on my drive home yesterday. I said, there's been no catch of the breath post-convention for us, but all good things. So.
Yeah, so yesterday you spent 4.5 hours on the road because you're coming home from Oil City.
Oil City, yeah.
Big time place for some meetings.
Yeah, we were up there with Marty Wooldridge and his family, which I was really excited. I mean, I thought to myself going up and back, like, man, Marty's dedicated to make this drive as often as he does. Mm-hmm. Not a lot to see on 49, or at least it doesn't change a whole lot. A few things around Rapides Parish that catch my eye, rice fields and such. But yeah, it was great to be up in the northwest corner, and we had a lot of our all-star team up there to have Speaker Mike Johnson, who asked us to put him something together, and we did in a hurry, and it was a lot of fun. Yeah,
those types of calls don't happen often. We're going to talk about this, but it started as a staffer visit, which is way more common just because of schedules are tough, and staffers are usually the ones getting a lot of the work done anyway, so they're the ones we often have on farms. But he saw that on the schedule, right? How'd that come to be? Yeah, so we everything in Farm Bureau is kind of in a cycle, and I've been doing this enough now to know those key times to make plans. So in July, Richard goes up to D.C. for Council of Presidents. Myself, Madison, and J.C., our summer intern, got to go with him. And so we just made a few touch points around the Hill. The members weren't there, but we went and sat down with a young man, Colby Hebert, who's been with Speaker Johnson in his 4th District office, working ag issues for less than a year. So we haven't had him in the August recess period yet. So we went and touched base with him and said, hey, you coming back to Louisiana in August? They're the whole House of Representatives out the whole month. So staffers are encouraged to come back and see the people. And so we know that, and we strategize for that. So yeah, we got with Colby, and it was his request. He said, he's from Lafayette originally, and he said, I've seen cane, I've seen rice, crawfish, but I don't know much about cattle. Well, Madison was in the room, so her ears shot up. She got excited.
And he said, but I'm going to be basing most of my visits around Shreveport. So then we said, well, we know a guy. So that all came together. Marty was really awesome and flexible as the schedule evolved. But yeah, Colby called last week, middle of the week, and said, so my boss saw my cattle visit on the calendar and wants to know if he can join. So we went to work. And
did you break your keyboard trying to type out yes?
Well, thankfully after last year with the big event and similar timeline to pull together 200 plus people with a big venue. When he said, we want to keep it relatively small, a round table, maybe 15 to 20 people, I went, oh, okay, we can do that. But the toughest part, honestly, was it was like 115 degree heat index up there. And so we wanted to make sure we had some air conditioning to visit, because our policy points wouldn't have landed as well, I think, with the discomfort of a barn or a shop. So we set it up in a few days' time. Called in our exec committee and then a lot of our commodity leadership and try to just get a good cross representation, but also find folks, constituents, folks local to that area. But we have great leadership up there, and they all showed up.
Fortunately, he's got a pretty large district. So
yeah, and he's right. Even with the redistricting that we've gone through, I mean, we always tout Miss Letlow's district as the largest row crop district in the country, and it is, but I mean, Mike Johnson's district is as ag as you can get.
And it's diverse.
Yeah, forestry. He's got rice and
poultry
cane in the bottom. He's got poultry, a lot of cattle. And so it has it all. And he knows that. And so it does feel very validating that a man who told us has to be in 30 different states, I think, or maybe 30 districts in 18 states. But he's about to hit his sprint towards the November election as the leader of the House Republicans, that's one of his big jobs, is to go help people campaign and raise money. But what we love about him, and this is what Marty and Richard and others said to him, is he took care of home first. He has not forgotten that he represents the 4th District, which he knows is ag heavy. So we've been a good partner for them, and thankfully they come to us and ask us to put things together, and we work with our leaders, our members, and our friends to make it happen.
Well, I'm going to ask you more about that actual visit and some of the points that were discussed. But before we do that, he came home in an August recess, and it was kind of some drama there. I guess not drama, but typical Washington, D.C. stuff, politics, I guess would be the fair term for it. But kind of, let's put your national affairs hat on. This whole episode is all national affairs. But tell me kind of what is happening in D.C. that, like, I guess preceded this visit back home, and kind of where he came home from.
Yeah, so he was able to rally his party, and he's had to use this mechanism a few times now. It's called budget reconciliation. So it's one way, if you can get, when you're in the majority, which House Republicans are, if you can get enough Republicans, essentially all of them in his case, because he has just a few vote margin that gives him the majority with his party. If you can get all those folks to buy in to a package, then you can pass it, and through this reconciliation type vote. Now, it meets challenges when you do that because it's not open season on what you can include. There's a thing called,
it's not like an omnibus bill.
Right. Yeah. It's not full government funding, which the House actually did that as well. They passed a short-term CR, continuing resolution. And so they kind of got Republicans together and said, we need to go campaign in August. We don't need to be up here with all these things undone. And so that's really where Speaker Johnson has impressed so many people. And I mean, he's had a lot of doubters. And there's been times that votes have failed and Republicans didn't get in line and follow the leadership. But he was able to do that. NDAA, this reconciliation, National Defense Authorization Act, reconciliation, continuing resolution. He was able to just stack all these things, get Republicans whipped into shape and say, let's pass all this and go home. The Senate has not done that. They're still there for this week and next week in session. But that's what Mike did, and that's what he came home to share with us. We've done all these things, and now we're going to go campaign and campaign hard. And he, the TV cameras that he stands in front of every day, he gave us a lot of those talking points out of the gate because that's where his focus is. But we got the politics understood and the state of play that he's dealing with. And then he said, but let me hear about ag issues and let me see which ones, I might can weave in and take care of Louisiana and take care of agriculture as we look towards the fall. So it's, everybody says it's the most politically divisive time of our generation and just this constant noise about politics. And it's thin. There's no easy way to get votes on anything. So you just don't see a lot of votes on anything. But we appreciate, the biggest thing is that reconciliation package has $12 billion of ag assistance in it. We need more than that. He knows that, but that's what the White House asked for. The House is giving it to him, and we certainly would take it if that's the best we can get. But he shared that with us, and that was kind of the ag message of all that mess I just described, is we haven't forgot you. The Iran war, ag, and one other priority they took care of in reconciliation. So we're still in that food security is national security. They recognized that and funded it.
Andy, just zoom out for a second. I guess you've been doing this for a minute, this national affairs thing. How crazy is it that the Speaker of the House, he's a couple steps away from the presidency, that he's, one, from Louisiana right now, and two, recognizes the importance of Farm Bureau and the agriculture. Like, that's kind of, I'm sitting here listening to you talk about all this stuff. It's like he's leading the party and all this stuff in the House side, and it's like, we've got his ear.
Yeah.
At Farm Bureau. That's pretty nuts to think about those two things. And
I'll just share this, some of his other staff, not Colby, but ones I've worked with for a long time, sent me a nice text thanking me for our work, and it said, Ag should know that, or everyone should know that Louisiana Ag has the speaker's ear. But where I go with that is back to what I started by saying he hasn't forgotten home. What we did yesterday is no different than we would offer the least tenured member of Congress, and that's where Farm Bureau has its strength. That we are strategic. Like I told you in July, the speaker's staffer is not the only one I'm planning a visit for. Mm-hmm. We don't. A lot of people play those politics. We play the policy, and so we're going to work with the least tenured staffer, the least tenured congressional member, and give them those same points. And then you're not betting at that point, you're just investing. And when that investment hits to the speaker and to the majority leader, it's never been done in the history of our country to have two of those from the same state, then yeah, we absolutely fight way above our weight class, and we're excited to do that. But it takes that grassroots leadership, Richard, the exec team, all these folks leaving their farm, showing up, sharing the message. That doesn't change. What happens in politics and who gets made speaker, we just happen to be blessed to have that kind of access right now.
Yeah. So let's talk back to those grassroots, those leaders that left the farm, came to Marty's farm, and had that visit. So who, I guess not being about who, you already talked about being a cross-section, a lot of commodities covered, a lot of commodity leaders within our organization, but kind of, I guess, what were some of the big things that were discussed? And I guess what was their reception like? What was that? I guess you were in the room when everybody kind of started coming in. Speaker Johnson came in the room. Like, what was kind of take us back to the beginning of the meeting there?
Yeah, I mean, I can speak to that. Everybody's the same, and we're going to treat everybody the same, and we do. We brought the Speaker of the House into Marty's mother's living room. I mean, you don't get any more grassroots than that. And you could tell working with staff, they weren't real sure about all that. And even the speaker, when he walked in, it just had this look on his face. And I'm putting words in his mouth, but it had this look of, man, it's been a long time since I politicked in, mama's living room. But it was awesome, and it made everybody so comfortable. Now, when he walked in, myself included, there's, everybody has a little starstruck. You see him on TV every single day, and he is the third most powerful man in the world. But he's Mike from Louisiana, and that's he does a great job of that. So that led us into a very comfortable conversation. Once we got past the state of politics, we got into ag policy, and thankfully we had a couple of row crop guys from up there that Stephen Logan, Kyle Dill, big leaders for us, Cotton and Grain Association. They jumped in, right? They've been through leadership training. They know not to waste a second of that man's time. And they start talking about input costs, and they start talking about trade and how those things have those crops in a negative return for the third, fourth, fifth year in a row, and how things are drying up fast. Then you ping pong that to John Owen, the incoming chair of the USA Rice nationally, and his longtime buddy, our president rice farmer, Richard Fontenot. They start talking about bad actors in India, and the Trump administration's told us, we're going to get some help, and we're still waiting on it. We need tariffs to slow these folks down. So we started out with our major row crops, but we had some really more niche conversations, particularly about forestry. That part of the state, it's a huge deal. And they also are in a very difficult time right now. Our state board member, Mr. Paul Morris out of Sabine Parish, shared, that logging crews in his area have been told to cut back to 3 people, and we're only going to delimb. We're not even really cutting timber. So those stories resonated with, and we had a great cross-section of the north part of the fourth, Sabine Parish. We had, the rice folks covered. The whole district was covered, and we jumped around. And then we were on a cattle farm. We have a really strong cattle presence there and poultry. And so we kind of rounded out the topics with Big Beautiful Bill and disaster programs for livestock, and how those are being implemented, but where we could use some weight from Capitol Hill to lean on USDA to get it right on how they implement some changes there.
Do sometimes in these types of settings, and you do these hill visits all the time, but does it sometimes feel like you're just sitting there complaining to these folks that have a million things on their plate? Is that how did it feel that way? And does he appreciate kind of that part of it?
Absolutely. And I vividly remember with Mike Johnson, before he was Speaker Johnson, I vividly remember early in my career doing this, going and have a meeting with him in his office. And we were there to ask for aid once again. And he said, guys, I'm really struggling here. I campaign and I truly believe that I'm a fiscal conservative. And y'all ask for a lot and y'all ask for often. And he's not afraid to ask the tough questions. And we were able, with the group I had at that time, to say, we know, and we don't want to be here asking. And here's ways that if you and your party, or, if y'all can come to these things, then we promise we won't be here asking. And unfortunately, they haven't been able to get enough of those done where we don't continue to ask. But, you look at our livestock guys, they weren't in there asking for direct assistance. They were looking for small policy tweaks to improve a safety net that they don't need right now. But when a freeze, hit our poultry houses, they did need, so it is all, everything about policy is a problem, and you're trying to solve a problem. Yeah. That's what we're there to do. But the part that we believe, and I drink the Farm Bureau maroon and white Kool-Aid for sure, but what I truly believe, and I think it shows that we were his first stop on his 2 days that he could spend in Louisiana, is that we make the experience positive. We show him we love our lifestyle. The first thing he did was walk with Marty and his son Trip to go look at cows and this beautiful scenery and, a modest but beautiful farmhouse. Like, this is all we're asking for. We're not asking for the world. We're asking for this to continue. That's every single, we went around the room to start the meeting with introductions, and every single person said, I'm so-and-so farmer. I farm these commodities. I'm fourth generation, or I'm fifth generation, or I'm sixth generation. And those folks were just, everything they led off with was, I don't want to ask for help, but I got to have some change to sustain what I have. And it's not the way it was when I came in, and the world has squeezed my margin so tight that I don't know if I want to pass this on anymore, because it's not, it takes so much hard work that the juice isn't worth the squeeze that we're in right now.
Yeah. What was, I guess, some of his response to the discussions about trade, about the need for, that you just mentioned, his fiscal conservative heart, and people asking for aid, and talking about that I guess, struggle there between those two ideas of trade and aid?
Yeah, so he, like any politician, he wants to stay elected, so you don't get super direct promises. But the way I would summarize it is every single commodity, and this is how we're going to go back to his staff to do what we do as staff to summarize all these points. I know I blew through them, and if somebody's watching or listening, they're going to be like, what did they even talk about? But that's how these meetings go. We had probably 45 minutes to actually talk policy, and you had 15 people that all had a different point to make. So it goes fast. But everybody had a big ask, like aid, put trade sanctions on these other countries. We need to deregulate so that we have more investment in markets that want to be built in this country. Whatever it was, I would categorize those as big policy asks. Like, you got to work on those for years to get those to happen. But then our members are really good, and they've been trained well to also ask, when you have that kind of leadership, hey, here's also like a Louisiana deliverable that you could just help us with if your staff just leans in on an agency or does this casework for us of this smaller problem. So those examples would be some of this rulemaking going on, whether it's labor, whether it's these disaster programs. Hey, we're the experts, Speaker, on those things. Help us help you, lean in and direct this spending.
It would be a win for both of us.
Yeah, like we don't want to just blow this. We've asked for it. We want to see it's done right. So let's work together with your influence and our knowledge to make this program the best it can be. And that's where most of our members don't want to spend taxpayer dollars, but they dang sure don't want to spend them poorly. So we do a really good job of that. But the bigger asks, he would come back to the politics at play and, I want to help you. And he's proven that now. I mean, he's 3 years in a row as speaker. When it comes down to it, ag has been in every one of his appropriations packages in a big way. So he said, I hear you. We're going to be able to get some of those things if I can make things come together, but may not be able to get all of them. So he does a really good job with that.
You talked about some of the disaster and program implementation. I know that was also a thing discussed, was the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, and kind of how that's rolled out in some cases slowly, or poorly, maybe for I don't know. I don't want to put words in your mouth. But what was discussed around that?
Well, just so everybody understands the process, everybody thinks you pass a law and then the next week it's up and rolling.
Everything's solved right there.
Well, we went a year. July 4th of 2026 was a year since the Working Families Tax Cuts Act, aka Big Beautiful Bill, was enacted as law. But it took the agency a year, and there's still rules to be written, but they have to write rules. They have to take the law and turn them into agency policy and action. And so we were really proud and shared with him, hey, a lot of those livestock disaster program improvements started right here at Louisiana Farm Bureau in our advisory committees. Livestock forage program, livestock indemnity program, emergency livestock assistance program. All those had improvements through Julia Letlow marker bills that we got done. And so we reminded him, hey, we came up with the idea. We'd like to be at the table to help implement the idea. And there was just some little challenges about USDA not having software updated and other rules that this administration was pulling back on with poultry, that we wanted his insider abilities in the White House to tell him, hey, that may be the big corporate integrators talking. It may not be your farmers. I'm not going to do Trump impressions like the speaker likes to do, but
did you do some yesterday?
A lot of them, yeah, which was fun. That's why we only let y'all get B-roll and don't do live audio, so that we can have some fun like that. But it was a lot. It was a lot to cover, to tell everybody all the points, but they were well made, and he committed. I mean, that's why we do the staffer visits. If this had only been the staffer visit, I still would have been on here telling you how great, excited we were, because Colby's going to be the guy to talk to Paul Johns and Dylan Laster about poultry rulemaking, with Mitch Marsalis about and Madison about the feed cost calculator that we passed policy on at convention. Like, that's who's going to get it done. But we had the big boss in there, and he'll be, the one to carry the message forward.
Well, and he's that much closer to understanding. It makes that the ground that staffer has to make up. Like, he's that much closer to understanding the issue whenever Colby brings it up and says, hey, remember this thing we talked about in Shreveport about cattle? And he's like, oh, yeah, I do remember that, because he's been in that conversation. He sat in that living room. Absolutely. That's really awesome. Well, real quick, I mean, this is a really awesome tour, really awesome hour of our members' time, and it's going to have way bigger impact than a single hour of everyone's day. But what else, I guess, has been going on in the national affairs picture? I know you said your shop has been just slammed since convention, but what else is kind of going on big picture in the national affairs world for you, Andy?
Well, as I pointed out earlier, these votes are so few and far between that things just start to bottleneck. So it doesn't allow my team to take something off of our to-do list. It just stacks. And so we have a lot of things backlogged in the U.S. Senate, particularly a farm bill, first and foremost. And then our second biggest priority has been ag workforce, ag labor reform. So Matthew's super deep with G.T. Thompson's Securing Ag Workforce Act. That just came out a month ago. And then those are the multi-year work. You develop those big packages across years. Mm-hmm. But then year to year, you deal with economic aid, you deal with disaster assistance, you deal with rule implementation of the last big thing you pass. So it's just this constant sort of spider web of activity. But the main thing is because Congress does not function very well right now. And if we could move votes throughout the year and spread it out and get appropriations done, normal time, this is some mystery thing that Kyle tells me used to happen. Like, all those things make our job just this constant hamster wheel of activity that you can't let off the gas, because if you do, then that call of, hey, my boss wants to come do this roundtable, it may not come.
Mm-hmm.
There's other groups that, don't have the staff we do, or don't have the enthusiasm and the volunteers to show up like we do, and they don't get those calls, and we don't take that for granted, and we're going to keep that pace up to see it to fruition. And we have proof in that through these things we got done in Big Beautiful Bill, but there's always more work to be done. Our members are in really rough shape, a lot of them, not all of them, but a lot of commodities still in really rough shape. So if they're not sleeping well at night and they're not cash flowing, then my team's going to take on that mentality and keep at it. So that's what we're doing.
You mentioned Farm Bill and labor, both issues that we've obviously been following for a long time. Labor, we've had some wins on a, issue by issue or problem by problem basis in the past. I mean, just that's pretty regular. Farm Bill is not. We get a marker bill from time to time that ends up in something else. But where are we at with Farm Bill? I know is it out of the House and it's in the Senate right now. For anyone that's just tuning in and just saying, well, give me the 2-minute version of where the Farm Bill is these days.
Yeah, it's crazy that, you see this on Netflix fictional series, where a senator dies or one is sick or one is, you're not sure where, the margins are so thin that, God rest his soul, but Lindsey Graham from South Carolina passes away suddenly, and Mitch McConnell is ill of some sort. Well, we thought we were going to have a Farm Bill markup in Senate Ag Committee weeks ago, but he doesn't have his full roster of members to get the votes he needs. So he's not going to bring something up for it to tank, something he's been working on for 4 years now. So the Farm Bill is stuck in the Senate. It's, from what we've read in the discussion draft, has some holes in it compared to the House version that we're pretty concerned about. Prop 12 being a big one, a livestock states' rights issue. So we're working. Senate Ag Committee, American Farm Bureau is definitely working still hard on the Farm Bill. We're working some of our priorities, soybean quality insurance stuff and other issues, but it's stuck. And
is there really any guess at a timeline on that kind of thing? With the nature of, you mentioned the passing of Lindsey Graham and those things like that, that could really, really hold things up, right? Yeah, it doesn't look great. The markup has to happen, and then you got to find floor time. So, we're going to put a lot of pressure on it post August recess, that squeeze with appropriations that happens towards the end of September. So pre-election, that would be a carry away message for anybody listening, that whatever which way you advocate, social media, direct contact to an office, we got to put the pressure on the U.S. Senate, and not necessarily our members. They're not up for election, but we have a Senate race going on, but they can't vote. So we're kind of stuck in a weird position. But nationally, we need to let the Senate know this. They need to clear this off their list. Because I'm going to be honest with you, Carl, this is a budget neutral bill. A lot of the big wins we took care of in Big Beautiful Bill. Mm-hmm. This is just policy updates. It's not partisan stuff. It's not super contentious anything. It's just policy. But it's become a political football like everything, and so it's bogged down. And you start getting me on Farm Bill, the Farm Bill fatigue is real, and we get frustrated. We've just been working a long time and just keep seeing it get watered down by excuses. And we've kind of drawn the line that these are some things we got to have, and we should have already had them. So they're wearing that one at this point. It's not something that has a lot of enthusiasm about it. It's more like, y'all need to take care of this, and let's finish this thing. Yeah, let's finish. Yeah. Well, cool. Is there anything else we need to talk about? You got the mic. I know you've always got something on your mind, but anything else in your shop and issues, or even locally, I guess, back to some commodities that are going on right now?
Yeah, the challenge, I wrote a little article for the USA Rice Daily newsletter last night, and the little part I put in there is this is a really challenging time where our farmers are in harvest. It's hot. They have a lot to take care of. They got to take care of their livestock. They got to be farming right now. And so we got to stay relevant. It puts pressure on my staff to make sure we're carrying that while they're in the field. But what I just said of fatigue, I see it in our members. They don't want to ask for aid anymore. They don't want to get in this appropriations crunch between now and Christmas to fight like hell once again to squeeze out the bare minimum. But that's what we got to do to survive. That's what our executive committee and our board and my commodity leaders continue to tell me to go fight and bring them along in the fight to do. And so that's what we're going to do. It doesn't mean that we're not focused on labor or trade. I could sit on this podcast another 30 minutes and tell you all the meetings we've had there. But like I already have said, this is a marathon. We have sprints within the marathon, and we're fixing to come into one. But ultimately, we have to keep up the effort. And when you see the speaker call you for a meeting, you know that your efforts are paying off. So we're going to keep it up. We hope our folks stay safe and get their farming and enjoy it. Just that part of bringing in a harvest. My team's going to get out and ride some combines and go. Madison went and checked calves with Marty after the meeting. You know, we need that too because we believe in what they're doing, and it's just refreshing. So I know y'all feel the same, getting out and doing stories. So we're going to do some of that and rejuvenate ourselves in August and get these people home, and then we're going to hit it hard and really hard with an election and an appropriation cycle that we've learned how to navigate pretty well. So
cool. Well, Andy Brown, thank you so much for all the work you guys and your whole team are doing. If you want to learn about some of the work they're doing, we have articles. I'll find a link to that article Andy just mentioned that he put in USA Rice Daily, and we'll find all this information. We'll have a story on This Week in Louisiana Agriculture about this visit with Johnson and his staff and all of our leadership, and we'll put a link to that in the show notes as well. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again right here next time on the Louisiana Farm Bureau podcast.